Number 10. Mariah Carey. This celebrity feud is legendary, so it's only fair that we start off with this one. J-Lo and Mariah Carey have been at each other's throats since the early 2000s. In fact, most people remember the iconic line that Mariah told a German reporter, "I don't know her." Although it sounds hilarious, Mariah has maintained her negative opinion of J-Lo all these years. For example, an interviewer once asked her what she thought about Beyonce and Jennifer Lopez, and she responded by saying that they don't even belong in the same category for a very specific reason. Well, it's hard. You can't really put those two people in the same category because one is in a really different generation. They just started singing later. But when you talk about Beyonce, I think she's wonderful, she's great, she's a talented person. But it seemed that she forgot to compliment J-Lo as well. A few years later, Carey spoke to Andy Cohen and doubled down on her comments. Quote, "I don't know her, what am I supposed to say?" It looks like it'll take a miracle for these two iconic performers to ever be on good terms. Number 9. Rihanna. There are several celebrities who can't stand Jennifer Lopez, but one of the biggest critics of the iconic singer is Rihanna. These two former best friends had a serious falling out in 2016 for the oldest reason in the book. They were fighting over the same guy. Before the feud began, Rihanna and J-Lo were friendly to each other and had no reason for animosity. But trouble started brewing right after Rihanna and Drake broke up. They had a summer fling that same year, which was pretty casual, but it definitely still counted. Girl code was broken when J-Lo started getting close with Drake almost immediately after. But the feud really became public when Jennifer posted a photo of her and Drake hanging out backstage at her show in Las Vegas with the caption #LoveHim. In fact, the two were even spotted hugging, and fans quickly realized that something very shady was happening. An inside source close to the star said that Riri felt like she had suffered the ultimate betrayal and called Jennifer's behavior desperate. It must have been accurate because in December of 2016, she suddenly unfollowed Lopez on Instagram. Number 8. Gloria Estefan. Cuban-American superstar Gloria Estefan was originally supposed to be performing at the 2020 Super Bowl alongside fellow Latina pop stars J-Lo and Shakira. But after seeing J-Lo's new documentary called Halftime, where the singer went on a rant about having to share the stage with Shakira, Gloria put her comments on blast. She didn't seem to agree that it was the worst idea ever to have the artist share the stage, and explained why Lopez got it wrong on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. Quote, "Look, this is the bottom line. You have very little time, like 12 minutes or something, to get things on and off the set. So could you do it with one person? Yes. But I think they wanted to throw a Miami and Latin extravaganza, and they tried to pack it in as much as possible." The Grammy Award winner also confirmed that she chose not to participate for a reason, seeing as J-Lo got so worked up about having two people perform. Quote, "Okay, and imagine what J-Lo would have said if I was the third. I literally would come out, done a shake your booty and out." But she went on to insist that it was their moment and that she didn't want to go on a diet in December anyway. Number 7. Nick Cannon. The Wild 'N Out star took a cue from his ex-wife Mariah Carey's famous phrase to throw shade at Jennifer Lopez during his guest appearance on The Wendy Williams Show. While discussing Hollywood crushes during the Hot Topic segment, the 41-year-old first named Carey, his ex-wife and mother to their two twins, Moroccan and Monroe. Quote, "Number 1, Mariah, the amazing mother, superstar, singer." He then went on to name Halle Berry and Naomi Campbell as his second and third choices. A producer then suggested J-Lo as an option, and he just responded with, "I don't know her." After the audience erupted into laughter, the host added, "That was a joke for the lambs. Shout out to the lambs," as Carey refers to her fans as the Lamely. Cannon made it clear who he supports in the ongoing battle of the divas, and naturally he sided with Carey, so we can't really fault him for that. It's been a bit of a running joke for years that Mariah wasn't kidding and didn't actually know J-Lo personally when she gave that interview, but it was too late to clear the air, as the classic "I don't know her" line has gone down in history as one of the best ways to shade someone. Number 6. Rozie Perez. Both Jennifer Lopez and Rozie Perez have served as inspirations to the Latin community for over 2 decades, but they haven't always gotten along. They met back in 1991 during an open casting call for In Living Color. At the time, Perez was the show's choreographer, and Lopez was auditioning to become a member of the dance troupe known as the Fly Girls. Her audition was unsuccessful, but Perez saw a star quality in J-Lo and actually pulled some strings to get her in. But after she was in the group, it became clear that Lopez didn't get along with her fellow dancers. According to Perez, she was labeled as a diva right away. All of the girls were coming into my office and complaining how she was manipulating wardrobe, makeup, and me, all to her advantage. Perez said that at first she didn't believe it, but then J-Lo screamed at her saying, "I know I'm good, I'm better than any of these girls and you know it." What's worse is, after J-Lo left the show and made it big in the music industry, she went on talk shows trashing her former choreographer. Perez also implied that J-Lo ghosted her. Quote, "I called her up, she wouldn't pick up. Frustrated, I left her an irate message on her answering machine. Instead of calling me back and hashing it out like friends do, she went on a major talk show and reiterated my lashing."
Next up, Nicki Minaj. It's long been rumored that Jennifer Lopez is a huge diva, and the fight that her and Nicki Minaj had while on American Idol brought up both of their diva sides. In 2012, Lopez was a judge on American Idol while Nicki came on to perform, and things got tense fast. After Nicki finished performing, she went over to the judges table and asked, quote, "I was hoping maybe I could come back and be a guest judge. J-Lo, can you scoot over a little bit?" J-Lo then responded, quote, "I don't know if there's enough room for both of us." Then Minaj took it up another notch backstage when she said, quote, "She didn't seem to be having it, but she's gonna have it." But she later added, quote, "We were just joking around." But it's clear the bad blood is still there. When Lopez performed at the 2015 AMAs, she sang a part of Minaj's song Anaconda. But I don't think Nicki got the memo that it was going to be happening, because when the camera panned to Nicki, she did not look happy. Fans totally saw the shade and started tweeting about it that night.
Number 4. Nicki Minaj. These two have allegedly been feuding since 2012. It all started when Nicki was performing on one particular episode of American Idol at the same time that J-Lo was sitting on the judge panel. In a rather awkward moment, Nicki asked if she could come back on the show as a guest judge and asked J-Lo to scoot over. As a Latina artist hit back, she said, "I don't know if there's room for both of us." It was one of those joking moments that seemed like there was something else behind it, but nevertheless the two seemed to be just joking around, even though Nicki told a reporter backstage, quote, "She didn't seem to be having it, but she's gonna have it." Okay, so now we're jumping to 2015, when fans swear that Nicki shaded J-Lo for performing her song at the American Music Awards. As she was performing a small part of Anaconda, the camera cut to Nicki in the audience looking less than happy with the rendition. The clip showed her emotionless face and made it seem like she didn't approve of the way her song was being used. Number 3. Ryan Seacrest. This incident gives Ryan every reason to hate J-Lo because it's pretty bad. Ryan Seacrest worked alongside the singer on American Idol and the two quickly became friends. But all that seemingly changed when the talk show host revealed that he flew down to Miami to celebrate her milestone 50th birthday, only to be denied entry at the door. Ouch. He recalled the whole story on Live with Kelly and Ryan and explained that he flew down from New York for only a few hours because he had to make it back in time for the next morning's show. But when he finally arrived, the doorman told him, "You're not on the list," to which he responded, "Clearly, there's a mistake. She invited me personally." But upon being denied, he checked the list and couldn't find his name. The doorman just asked him to wait, made a quick call, and was able to confirm that Seacrest was indeed on the guest list. But the host went on to say that he was the first person there and no one really got turned up until after he left. It would have certainly been a little embarrassing to say the least. Number 2. Cameron Diaz. Throughout the years, Jennifer Lopez has been known to speak negatively about her fellow actors, and it looks like it may have come back to bite her. During an interview in the late 90s, J-Lo explained that Cameron Diaz was just a lucky model who was given opportunities. She did mention that Diaz can be good when directed, but Lopez's past comments about Cameron's career allegedly made things super awkward between them when they both had to buckle down and work together in the 2012 comedy What to Expect When You're Expecting. Several anonymous sources on the set of the film claimed that the two stars did not get along at all during the shoot. In fact, it was reported that Cameron said the singer was a nightmare to work with. Quote, "She even said that Jen should stick to her day job, meaning American Idol and singing." According to The Insider, J-Lo demanded to eat at specific times, no matter what, and stops working when it suits her, and she had her assistant assistant run over to her with food. This is what allegedly drove Cameron crazy. Another source claimed that the co-stars actively avoided one another while filming and tensions were thick. Number 1. Ojani Noah. The former couple were married on February 22nd, 1997 and got divorced barely 1 year later, in January of 1998. It was so long ago that you would think Ojani has moved on from the relationship, but apparently he's still holding on to a bit of resentment. In fact, Jennifer's former flame was out to make a buck off their brief marriage by trying to expose revealing videos from their honeymoon. Ojani was even hauled into court after he started planning a tell-all movie based on the revealing home footage called How I Married Jennifer Lopez, the JLo and Ojani Noah story. The result? Well, she sued him for a whopping $10 million and demanded a permanent court order blocking her ex from making any videos public. Ojani also threatened to write a tell-all book unless he was paid $5 million by the singer. His unpublished book alleges that JLo had multiple affairs, including one with Mark Anthony, during the 11 months that they were married. But a judge was not having it and awarded her $545,000 in damages and quashed the book, ruling that it violated a 2004 deal not to publish details of their relationship. Her team calls the movie an outrageous attempt to make money and received substantial compensation. So it's clear that he's still a little bit bitter.
First and foremost, Hilarie Burton. Back in 2008, Hilarie Burton, an actress in Lethal Weapon, had been a co-host for MTV's Total Request Live. The show was a daily music video countdown that ran for 10 years. On the show, she would interview various celebrities and ask them their opinions on music and catch up with their lives and stuff. Very casual hangout style interviews. Anyways, in an incident that was caught on video, Ben behaved extremely inappropriately towards Hilarie. He grabbed her non-consensually and groped her. The video resurfaced in 2017 at the height of the Me Too movement, when one Twitter user posted, quote, "Affleck also grabbed Hilarie Burton's breasts on TRL once. Everyone forgot though." The tweet got enough attention that Hilarie herself saw it and replied, quote, "I didn't forget." In a later tweet, she recalled, quote, "I had to laugh back then so I wouldn't cry." She then thanked the user who posted the video and brought up the encounter. Quote, "Seriously, thank you for that. I was a kid." I guess she had felt that her situation with Ben was pretty much swept under the rug, which is pretty right, honestly. I had no idea about the story at all until 2017, and let's just say that Ben's apology left quite a bit to the imagination. He tweeted out, quote, "I acted inappropriately towards Miss Burton and I sincerely apologize." And that's it. I know when it comes to cases like this, people love to default to, oh, well, it was a long time ago. While I can see that just maybe being a proper excuse for certain situations, what is absolutely inexcusable is how one decides to address it. Ben's apology missed the mark, and when you do regret a situation, rectifying it is the only way to ethically right it. I'm not sure if anything went on behind closed doors between the two in the ways of an apology, but either way, as far as the public is concerned, not cool, Ben.
First up, of course, we have Mariah Carey. Even if you're not familiar with many of JLo's feuds, I'm sure you know that Mariah Carey hates her. That's because Mariah has not been shy about throwing shade in her direction. These two have been feuding ever since JLo started to make music, and started to steal her shine. Then when Mariah was asked about Lopez in an interview, she famously replied, quote, "I don't know her." Years later, when Andy Cohen brought up the beef on his show Watch What Happens Live in 2014, Jennifer Lopez played the whole thing off, saying, quote, "I don't have a feud against her at all. I know from back in the day, I've read things that she said about me that were not the greatest, but we have never met. Like, we don't know each other. I would love to meet her, and I would love to be friends with her." But then JLo was a little more savage on the Wendy Williams show when asked about the feud in 2016. Lopez said, quote, "She's forgetful, I guess. We've met so many times." But Carey doubled down in another interview where she added that she still doesn't know Jennifer Lopez. When Mariah had a mishap of her own during a disastrous New Year's Eve performance, Lopez took a break from the high road and liked an extremely shady tweet about Mariah. The tweet said, quote, "Ever seen an accident you couldn't take your eyes away from? That was her tonight." If you're wondering where this feud started, it all goes back to Mariah's ex-husband and music executive, Tommy Mottola. After getting married in 1993, Carey divorced Mottola in 1998 because he was very controlling. And to get back at her, Mottola started up JLo's career and did everything possible to make JLo a star, instead of Mariah. JLo sampled a number of Mariah-esque songs. There were even allegations she straight up copied some of Mariah's songs, but tried to make them more of a hit. All because of Mottola. But Mariah knows she still came out on top, adding, quote, "After all that shit, Loverboy ended up being the best-selling single of 2001 in the United States. So basically the whole feud is over career competition and the fact that Lopez was in cahoots with Carey's controlling ex.
Number 7. Makeup artist feud. Scott Barnes, who worked for JLo for the past 20 years, has had to deal with so much of the star's crazy hot and cold behavior. In the mid-2000s, the star essentially banished her longtime makeup artist, Scott Barnes, after rumors surfaced that someone had leaked info to the press about her and Mark Anthony's secret marriage ceremony. Speaking on the Jeff Probst show in 2012, when asked about how JLo treated him, he said, quote, "It was like I had the plague." But interestingly enough, eventually she ended up giving Barnes his old job back again after learning the truth, but apparently failed to apologize for being so cold and ruthless towards him. I mean, she literally cut him off without a word and blamed him for the leak without even confronting him. Barnes went on to say, quote, "I went right back to work with her and we just never spoke about it again," which is even weirder. The funny thing is, her celebrity makeup artist would go on to work with her for another 6 years and insisted that they remain on good terms despite the fact that she ghosted him and didn't even apologize for it.
Brandy. In the midst of the Mariah and JLo feud, Brandy publicly supported Mariah, making it clear she does not like JLo. In July of 2017, Brandy took to Instagram to share a photo of herself hugging Mariah Carey with the caption, #SheKnows Me, an obvious reference to Mariah's infamous "I don't know her" comment about JLo. All the comments were flooded with people speculating over the caption, and the consensus quickly became that the photo was a dig at JLo. However, Brandy later addressed the caption, writing, quote, "Oh my god, what happened? I swear to goodness, I didn't know what the fuss is about. I love this pic and now everyone thinks I'm throwing shade. At who? This is funny. Can't take this one down. I love this picture and whenever I'm throwing shade, it's not questionable, you know that I am." Later adding that Mariah does in fact know her. Mariah supported the post by commenting, quote, "I sure do." Even though Brandy is trying to convince us it's nothing shady, I honestly don't believe it.
Number 5. Brandy. Brandy has had a public feud with Jennifer Lopez since 2017, and according to Kiwi Report, she made it clear that she supports Mariah Carey going against JLo too. Basically, she posted a photo of herself on Instagram hugging Carey with the hashtag #SheKnowsMe. The caption was super perfect and a great reference to that famous "I don't know her" comment. So the whole thing tells us that Brandy is totally teaming with Mariah. Brandy's post exploded on social media and Lopez fans immediately took offense to it. Mariah saw the backlash and chimed in to Brandy's photo, commenting with a simple "I sure do." But the singer was quick to defend herself from hate comments and edited the caption shortly after posting it with, quote, "Oh my god, what happened? I swear to goodness, I don't know what the fuss is about. I love this pic and now everyone thinks I'm throwing shade. At who? This is funny, can't take this one down. I love this picture and whenever I'm throwing shade, it's not questionable. You know that I am." She totally doubled down on dissing Jennifer and siding with Mariah, adding, quote, "Also, I've met her several times. Like the several seats that should be taken, she does know me."
Rihanna. Rihanna and JLo started feuding right around the time that JLo was seen getting cozy with Rihanna's ex, Drake. This all happened in 2016 when JLo and Drake took a photo backstage at JLo's concert. Once the photos came out, everyone assumed that they were dating, which probably got the attention of his exes. A lot of fans felt the whole thing was most likely a publicity stunt, but Rihanna took the rumors pretty seriously and lashed out online because of it. A source said at the time that Rihanna suffered, quote, "the ultimate betrayal," and dubbed Lopez desperate and a traitor. This was because Rihanna and JLo were really tight at one point, and Rihanna even got support from JLo during rough times with Drake. Then in December of 2016, Rihanna unfollowed JLo on Instagram, making her stance very clear. Jenna Dewan. When the pair started alongside each other on World of Dance, they seemed like they got along great. Lopez was a producer and a judge, while Dewan was a host and mentor on the show. But sources revealed that when the camera stopped rolling, the women hated each other. One source said about their relationship, quote, "Jenna can't stand Jen's over-the-top theatrical fakery. Jen never fails to ham it up when the cameras are rolling, and she hijacks the show. It seems she'd prefer if Jenna just stayed in the background." The insider continued that JLo is a micromanager who tells everyone else what to do. Because of all her input, Jenna felt excluded and felt like her voice was not heard. Although there is a chance that this feud is not accurate because when Dewan's team was asked about the feud rumors, they denied them.
Number 3. The Movieline interview. The infamous Movieline interview in 1998 that could have almost ruined JLo's career was truly worse than you can imagine. She was 27 at the time and fresh off the success of her film Selena. She basically decided to trash all the other celebrities that were big at the time and tried to trivialize their career and contribution to the industry. In fact, when asked about Madonna, she actually said, quote, "Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do. So I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. And I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." It was so ironic because JLo would go on to do both music and acting for the rest of her career, and critics also trashed her acting on the big screen. Also, at the time, Madonna had been a star for a lot longer than JLo, so there was no real comparison there. And when Gwyneth Paltrow was brought up, Jennifer almost seemed to laugh and made it clear that she didn't take her fellow actress's career seriously. Quote, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Yikes.
And finally, Jennifer Lopez herself. Nobody has done more to warn us about JLo's sketchy behavior than herself. And some of the things she's done in the past are too terrible to ignore. Back when she tried to score a role in competition with actress Claire Danes, JLo said some harsh things about her competition, saying that Claire Danes does the quote, "same thing with every character she does." Then Lopez bashed Winona Ryder, saying that she was not a big fan of her work. And finally, Lopez took aim at Gwyneth Paltrow, saying quote, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Then in a different interview, Lopez decided to take aim at Madonna, specifically bashing Madonna's attempt at acting. Quote, "Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, so I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." Aside from dishing out unnecessary shade to other celebrities, Lopez also has a reputation for being incredibly rude to service people. One United Airlines employee told the press how much of a diva she was during her flight. Apparently he asked if she wanted a drink, and she replied, quote, "I just said, what can I get you to drink?" But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge me. She turned her head away and told her personal assistant, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." Even though the stewardess was trying to serve her what she wanted, she refused to look, and made her assistant speak for her. It's so ridiculous and an unnecessary power play. But this interaction is nothing compared to the maid that was fired for asking JLo for an autograph. The maid later spoke with media and said she asked JLo's 2 assistants, who rejected the autograph. Then a day later, the hotel said that Lopez complained about the incident, and that maid was fired.
Let's get into my second point, and what I would say is kind of a pivot from what the title of this video is: Ben as a person and the paparazzi. I mean, if we're being candid here, yeah, Ben has issues. That's obvious, anyone can see it. But honestly, all of these issues, while not excuses, can be explained by his very clear depression and deep mental health issues. A lot of people's grievances with him can be traced back to his dumb youth. He was cocky and full of attitude after coming off of the success of Good Will Hunting. When he began dating Jennifer Lopez, one of the biggest stars in the world at that time, the media frenzy that resulted completely violated their privacy. Suddenly, everyone was taking photos of the couple in intimate situations, and stalking was so heavily normalized that we still see the effects of lecherous paparazzi activities to this day. That all started from their relationship. If you couple that with a string of mediocre movies, people just started to hate Ben Affleck. There was a bit he did with a Quebecois interviewer where he was being overly flirtatious with her. They had agreed to do it to promote a show she was hosting. She even stated that it was all a hoax, but people chose to ignore it in favor of trying to find a valid reason to hate on him, besides him being kind of a mediocre actor with serious issues.
Number 10. Sharing the stage. JLo didn't hold back when it came to her opinion on sharing the stage with Shakira at the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show. In her newly released documentary called Halftime, she labeled it as the worst idea in the world. Quote, "If it was going to be a double headliner, they should have given us 20 minutes. That's what they should have effing done." Basically, it turns out that Jennifer was frustrated with the NFL for booking 2 headliners and making them share the same amount of time that any solo performer would receive, as opposed to doubling it and giving the women extra time to shine. As a result, fans slammed the artist for coming off as entitled. While it's true that they only gave the performers 6 minutes each, the action-packed show garnered immense praise from fans across the globe, with many fans commending the women for showcasing their Latin heritage so brilliantly. What JLo was really mad about though is that previous solo headliners like Beyonce and The Weeknd received 14 minutes to perform, but judging by her complaints, it's clear that she feels offended that they asked her to share the stage at all. Number 9. Cheating allegations. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck have had an on-again, off-again romance that has been going on since the 2000s, with fans even nicknaming the couple Bennifer. I mean, these two just got married this year after they first got engaged nearly 2 decades ago, but the timeline of their relationship is a huge red flag and included alleged cheating. So in July of 2002, Lopez filed for divorce from her second husband, Chris Judd, citing irreconcilable differences. But this news broke just months after Lopez had wrapped the movie Glee alongside her then boyfriend Ben. Even though she vehemently denied cheating rumors, Ben took out an ad in The Hollywood Reporter gushing about Lopez before her divorce wasn't yet finalized. In fact, even Chris Judd's father, Larry, spoke out against the couple and accused J-Lo of being unfaithful to his son. He insinuated that the affair started during the filming of Glee. Quote, "I thought Mr. Affleck would honor a married woman and not just go right into the trailer," and added that she'd be happier if she'd just tell the truth and no one in her little circle is going to say one negative thing to her. But we'll never really know the truth of what happened. Number 8. Music theft. The star has been accused of stealing and borrowing background tracks and vocals from other artists for years. One of the stars who accused her of doing this was Usher in 2005. He claimed that she stole a song that he cast aside while recording his hugely successful album called Confessions. Usher claimed that J-Lo's single Get Right is actually a re-recorded version of Ride, a song that he co-wrote the year before, which was only available online. He said, quote, "I hate it, but I'd better get some of the publishing rights or else. I didn't put it on my album because I couldn't get it right, but I didn't expect J-Lo to just take it." And apart from being accused of stealing the same sample song that Mariah Carey used for Loverboy, J-Lo was also given songs that were initially intended for Ashanti, which is why a lot of people claim what happened between the two artists was straight up music theft. In September of 2001, Lopez released I'm Real from her second studio album, J-Lo, that she worked on with Irv Gotti. But the song was already recorded and mixed with Ashanti's vocals, which is why you can still hear her background vocals in Lopez's version.
Rozie Perez. You'd think that J-Lo and Rozie Perez would be great friends, considering how much they have in common. Both women are dancers, are Puerto Rican, and grew up in New York. But the pair are not close, and it would be more accurate to say that they actually hate each other. According to Perez's 2014 memoir, Handbook for an Unpredictable Life, she has plenty of negative stories to share about J-Lo. In her memoir, Perez shared a story from the set of In Living Color. She wrote about Lopez, quote, "All of the girls were coming into my office complaining how she was manipulating wardrobe, makeup, and me, all to her advantage," and added she was acting like, quote, "some ghetto bitch," screaming and pounding her chest. J-Lo ended up leaving that show after 2 seasons, but the feud between the pair continued, and Perez claimed that Lopez would speak negatively about her whenever she got the chance. Even worse, Lopez was allegedly two-faced. She would talk trash behind Perez's back, but be nice to her face.
Number 6. The Marc Anthony romance. Celebrity gossip magazines could not get enough of the power couple in the early 2000s. They were absolutely everywhere, and it seemed like fans loved the pairing. But their beginnings as a couple were super questionable to say the least. Anthony married former Miss Universe Dayanara Torres in 2000, while Lopez was dating Ben Affleck roughly around the same time. But the on-again, off-again couple picked their romance back up while Anthony was still married to Dayanara. So less than a week after Anthony's divorce was finalized, the couple surprised fans by getting married in a small, casual ceremony in her Beverly Hills home in early June. It really begs the question of whether or not J-Lo was some kind of homewrecker, because the timeline of the rekindled relationship seems really off. I mean, he actually broke Dayanara's heart, and she said, quote, "You go through hell. I cried until there were no tears left, until I was numb. I didn't want to eat, I didn't care to get dressed or take a shower, I just wanted to lie there." Anthony's feelings for Jennifer might have been there all along because the two had history, but he should have put way more thought into who he chose to marry in the first place. So in a way, they're both at fault here. Number 5. Insensitive comments. To give you some background on why everyone felt that J-Lo was trashing belly dancing. So a part of the 2020 Super Bowl performance featured young dancers sitting in glowing cages, which many people assume represented the immigrant children in cages at the US border. But she apparently had a hard time convincing the NFL to do this, and said, quote, "I'm trying to give you something with substance, not just us out there shaking our effing asses and effing belly dancing." She went on to say that she wants something real, something that's gonna make a statement, something that's gonna say we belong here and we have something to offer. Now, if you're confused about why that was so controversial, essentially she compared the art of belly dancing to just shaking your butt for the hell of it. In fact, that particular line was shared across Twitter and people were big mad. It was just a little culturally insensitive to say, considering the fact that the dance has long been associated with Middle Eastern cultures, and it's something that Shakira has become known for, using it to channel her father's Lebanese, Syrian, Arab roots. Number 4, avoiding the Bronx. This one, train wreck of an ad campaign, led people to openly mock both Chrysler and Jennifer Lopez. The central premise of the ad was that sometimes J-Lo will drive through her old hood in the South Bronx in a Fiat 500 just to stay inspired. Although it sounds ridiculous, the marketing campaign obviously tried to draw on the singer's famous Jenny from the Block era. Most people recognize the song in which she pays tribute to growing up in the Bronx, which had been a solid part of her image since the 90s. In fact, the singer even titled her debut album On the 6, which is a clear reference to the New York subway train. A press release at the time even stated that she would be traveling through the streets of Manhattan to the Bronx where she grew up. But the ad backfired when the Smoking Gun reported that Lopez never actually went to the Bronx to film the ad and that a body double stand-in was used instead, calling it, quote, "such a breathtaking assemblage of urban cliches," and that was putting it lightly.
Ojani Noah. Jennifer Lopez has been married 3 times before. Her first and shortest marriage was to Cuban waiter Ojani Noah. Although their relationship ended in 1998, it's clear that Noah cannot stand her, and whenever asked about Lopez, he does not hold back his negative feelings. Back in 2006, he was actually set to release a juicy tell-all book about Lopez called The Unknown Truth, a passionate portrait of a serial thriller. But before it was set to be published, Lopez was able to stop it with a lawsuit. She argued that publishing the book broke their confidentiality agreement, and the courts agreed. From that lawsuit, she won $545,000 in damages, and Noah was forbid from criticizing or casting in a negative light or otherwise disparaging Lopez. Noah's name was brought up once again when he threatened to leak an intimate tape of the two of them on their honeymoon. Lopez then filed a $10 million lawsuit against him. When asked why the relationship ended, Noah blamed Lopez, saying, quote, "I was looking forward to being with her for the rest of my life. It didn't happen. She made the choice of her career instead of me."
Number 2, accusations of racism. 20 years ago, Lopez was approaching full actualization as an entertainer, but a single from her second album, J-Lo, almost derailed her career entirely. The Murder Inc. remix of I'm Real, which features Ja Rule and Own Radio in 2001, was ruined by the N-bomb that she drops in her final verse. The issue was that the song was an instant hit, so much so that 10 years later, in 2011, Billboard gave it the 6th spot on its 40 biggest duets of all time list. But rightfully so, people were outraged by her use of the loaded term, not only because she's a Latina artist, but at her level of success, where she has a platform and sets an example to young fans, using such a derogatory word is at best offensive. But as the accusations of racism started to mount against the star, she eventually spoke out to defend her actions on the Today Show. Quote, "For anyone who thinks or suggests that I'm racist is really absurd and hateful to me." Although many people think this is not an excuse, it was later revealed that the track was actually written by Ja Rule himself, and apparently he encouraged her to say it. And number 1, fired A Maid. This one is really indefensible. Jennifer Lopez allegedly got a German hotel maid fired for asking for an autograph. Fredo Daj was a staff member at the luxury Melia Hotel in Dusseldorf, Germany, during Lopez's stay in 2012. She was a big fan of J-Lo and worked up the courage to knock on the star's hotel door in Dusseldorf to ask for an autograph, and was promptly turned away. Prey claims that she was relieved from her post the day after the incident. She told The Sun, quote, "I am an incredibly big fan, so I took all my courage and rang the doorbell to get an autograph, but I was rejected by 2 assistants at the door. A day later, the cleaning company that employed me at the hotel called and said that Miss Lopez had complained. I was fired right there on the phone." If the incident really happened, it's hard to ignore the irony when you remember that Jennifer played a hotel maid in the movie Made in Manhattan. After receiving a rightful amount of backlash, the pop star wrote on Twitter, quote, "Come on, thought you knew me better than this, would never get anyone fired over an autograph. First I heard of this was on Twitter, #hurtful.
The actor has been on a decades-long journey of trying to control his substance use issues. His own father battled alcohol and its presence in his life. In 1997, on the heels of rave reviews for Good Will Hunting, Ben decided to quit drinking for the first time. Quote, "I just wanted to stop. I started regretting some things I did when I was drunk." But sadly, it didn't end up working out for him, and Ben would soon revert to his old ways. He'd been in and out of rehab for years, including a stay in 2017 and in 2018. In fact, the 2018 stay was when Jennifer Garner, to whom he was divorced at the time, drove him to the hospital, despite them being separated and Ben being with another woman. She's a good person who genuinely saw Ben as a tragic case of both parental pitfalls and environmental stress combining to create bad habits that inadvertently harm those around him. She staged an intervention with Ben, who would sadly suffer another relapse after a year of being sober. When speaking about his relapse, he stated, quote, "My family history. The legacy of that is quite powerful and something that's hard to shake." I think, in turn, a lot of celebrities understand the pressure of the spotlight. To genuinely hate Ben Affleck for reasons other than being kind of a mediocre actor is to vilify those living with addictions and depression. In interviews, he stated that he feels more concerned about what his kids see and how they perceive their own dad, rather than what we see as an audience. Our voyeuristic tendencies to look in on his life shouldn't mean anything in the face of making sure that his kids remain happy and know that their father loves them. Quote, "I got to a place where the public perception was so different from who I am that I just stopped reading and stopped caring. But then, as my kids got older and started seeing the internet themselves, that's the difficult part. Even the sad Affleck meme, that was funny to me. I mean, there's nobody who hasn't felt that way in a junket. But when my kids see it and I think, oh, are they going to think that their dad is fundamentally sad or they have to worry about me? That's really rough. And I think, honestly, that's where our attention needs to lie. Ben shouldn't be vilified by people who don't really know who he is, and feeling depressed and anxious should not be seen as him being a bad person, because he's not. When he was on the Howard Stern show, his words were once again manipulated to paint the actor in a bad light. Quote, "I had gone on and said how much we respect each other," in terms of him and Jennifer Garner, "and cared about each other, and cared about our kids, and put them first, and went through our stuff. And they said that I blamed my ex-wife for my alcoholism, and that I was trapped in this marriage. Just made me out to be the worst, most insensitive, stupid, awful guy. I don't believe that. It's the exact opposite of who I am and what I believe. And I would never want my kids to think I would ever say a bad word about their mom." Ben so obviously needs help, and Jennifer is still trying to get him that help. And I hope J-Lo is too. He very obviously cares about his family, and if his own ex-wife is still committed to helping him out of the trenches, I don't see why the internet has to butt its head in and make everything worse. The pressure of a divorce is enough to make normal, everyday folks turn to substance use. Couple that with intense media scrutiny and a penchant for mental health issues, and it becomes a recipe for self-destructive disaster. Ben is an extremely eloquent person who himself has spoken about the shame he feels towards causing his divorce. Quote, "I drank relatively normally for a long time. What happened was I started drinking more and more when my marriage was falling apart. This was in 2015, 2016. My drinking, of course, created more marital problems. I feel that there is a genuine fault in Ben for what he did with the interview host, and if you're going to continue to hate him, do so for that. He was in the wrong and his apology was less than adequate. But to reason your negative feelings towards the actor because of the direct influence that unhealthy coping mechanisms have brought onto his life is extremely unfair. Only with love and care will people with substance issues be able to dig themselves out of the hole they've created." Ben himself echoes this sentiment, quote, "It's not particularly healthy for me to obsess over the failures, the relapses, and beat myself up. I've certainly made mistakes. I've certainly done things that I regret. But you've got to pick yourself up, learn from it, learn some more, try to move forward." Celebrities shouldn't have to warn us about Ben Affleck. We know he's going through hard times, and self-destruction often comes at the cost of destroying relationships with others as well. Shame and anger towards someone who's already on their knees is never the right approach. So anyways, guess I got that video in basically the complete opposite direction of what the title is supposed to be, so let's see how that goes.